Hi, I'm Francesco Cosmo Lacopo.
When did you decide to start your business at Lacopo's?
When I was working for the street department, I decided to quit and start my own business. It's always been a dream of mine to work for myself. And I thought pizza, a restaurant would be good. So my mother and father both are in the food business. When I started work, I was 16 and I started working at a bakery. And I punched the clock for 18 years, at Cremo for 13, and then at the street department for 5, and thought, that's enough, time to move on. My older brother Tony did the same thing that I did. I opened up my own business, and then a year later he opened up his own business, which was a gas station, a service station. My father taught me in the business to do the right thing, not to cut corners, to treat people right, and to work hard. He taught me his recipes, the dough, the meat, all the different ingredients that goes into the meats, and the sauces, which my mother taught me. The daily routine starts early in the morning. Clean the ovens and light them, start them up. It takes a while for them to heat up, because they're stone, and run errands, and then do my prep. Prep is very important to a restaurant, and just to get things ready.
Hi, my name is Angie. Last name is Lacopo. I'm now no longer at the restaurant, but when I was working there, I worked there for 11 years. I enjoyed myself because I got to visit, I was able to work with my family. So I was working with my mom and my dad and my brother. So yeah, it was fun. And then when my kids were older, my kids actually got to work there too. So they either did dishwashing or they made some sandwiches or whatever. They were able to help, and it was nice to spend time with your family.
When I made it as a small business owner, I realized, well, within the first 5 years, people were coming back, a lot of repeat business. I guess I was doing the right thing, and they keep coming back.
So I think that South Bend's history is best encompassed by talking about its geography first. And we're blessed with the St. Joseph River. It is the main reason that indigenous populations settled in this area, in particular the Pokagon Band, the Potawatomi Indians. The indigenous populations came into contact with the European explorers, and South Bend's history really begins long before its founding date of 1865. The indigenous populations having the interaction with the explorers, particularly the French, but really within this region you had French and British and some Spanish explorers who came to South Bend and areas to the north, and that kind of diversity became symbolic of South Bend as well. In the 18 and 1900s, early 1900s, you begin to see the establishment of a lot of different European settlers in this community. You have a profound number of German immigrants. You also have a profound number of Irish immigrants, Polish immigrants, Hungarian immigrants, and just to the east, in Mishawaka, Belgian immigrants. And so you see an incredible number of heritage and cultures being represented in the immediate South Bend area, particularly during that early wave of immigration in the 20th century, most closely associated with Ellis Island by many people, or for many people. So I think one of the biggest pieces of evidence of our diversity through the history of the city, again, prior to 1865 and after 1865, and ever since, are the profound number of places of worship. You can't drive more than a few blocks in South Bend without seeing a Catholic church. Normally a Catholic church whose name reveals the heritage and identity of the founders.
Well, my dad worked a lot. I saw him very rarely when I was younger because he was always working. There were 7 kids, and I do remember, he'd take me to the park or to the Dairy Queen. That was our favorite place to go. But then when I was old enough, I could actually go to work with him, and he worked at the retreat center at Fatima, and he cooked for the priest or for the retreats that were coming in. And I learned a lot of kitchen stuff there. Yeah, but being with my dad, that was one of my favorite things growing up. When they came over from Italy, they brought over a lot of traditions, like Sunday night dinners. That was like one of our favorites. Lots of people came over to our house. I always remember Papu working for other people. When he came over here, he worked for different pizzerias. And I heard, like Bruno from Bruno's Pizza just died, and I heard that he taught him how to make the dough. So yeah, my dad actually influenced a lot of people with the dough. Or make the dough for Paisano, Volcano, Vegetable Buddies. He was working. My dad always cooked. Way long ago, my grandfather, Salvatore Rulli, came here before he had kids. But he was married to my grandma, Maria, my nana. But he would come, and he was working here. He ended up actually becoming an American citizen, and he actually brought his family over, and he just loved this area. He worked at the LaSalle Hotel. I remember he worked there. I remember a picture of him and of being there. And then he just loved this area, so he ended up bringing everyone over. My 3 uncles, Pasquale, Tony, and Cosmo, they all married women from America here, and then my mom was already married, Carmela. She had already married my dad, and she had 3 children. It was all my grandfather. He's the one that started it all, so I thought this was a great place to live, South Bend. It's still our home.
I had there was a real strong immigrant presence in my family on my mother's side. My grandfather on my mother's side was from Hungary. He came to this country in 1911 when he was 7 years old, and he used to tell us all kinds of stories about that. But it was mostly my mother's side of the family that had a strong influence in terms of the cultural upbringing. In terms of my grandpa and that experience, he loved Thanksgiving Day. And the reason he loved Thanksgiving Day is because that was the day that he arrived in South Bend.
5 days a week, from north, south, east, and west, the Bocons, the McGowans, the Allens, the Lawsons, and nearly 5,000 other family groups converge on South Bend and the immense factory. More than 20,000 strong, these men and women make up the Studebaker family.
So one of the reasons that the various European immigrants, again, that came in that wave in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, sought out South Bend and in fact stayed here and began to love the city is our strong industrialization. We know that Studebaker played an incredible role in the history of this community. Studebaker was the most viable employer in this community. It was a point of pride, not only locally, regionally, but nationally and internationally known. And until 1963, it remained a major industrial employer for us, not only building cars, but literally building our community. So it was more than just the Studebaker factory that gave the industrialization name to South Bend. It was the Singer Sewing Factory, the Oliver chilled plow plant that you still see the remnants of on the west end of downtown, the South Bend Shirtwaist Factory immediately west of the East Bank, These were all viable opportunities for European immigrants to come in and to be a contributing member of our community. In 1963, December 9th, I believe, of 1963, Studebaker closed its doors, and from that point forward until the 2010 census, South Bend slowly declined. What's remarkable currently is that we now have repurposed not only a number of our industrial buildings, but repurposed a number of residential buildings, drawing in especially young people and older people alike to the core of the city, and a bit of a revitalization thanks to a lot of excellent policy and excellent momentum and marketing. We now are on an upward trend.
I am very cognizant of the folks that are immigrating here now, especially from the Latino community, and I understand, how vulnerable and alienated they are. And I played for years in the Mexican-American Baseball League on the west side of South Bend, so I started playing on that team in '83. So I would hear their stories, and these were my friends, and it bothered me when the political tenor in this country changed sometime around 2005, 2006, where we went from welcoming immigrants and trying to see them as a positive addition to our culture and our republic, and demonizing them and blaming them all for political, value, right? And reflecting on my own family's experience and how difficult it was, I thought, it's rather than demonizing these folks and making it difficult for them, we need to reach out to them and help them on their way to citizenship and to live a fruitful and flourishing life in this country. Most concretely, recently, as county auditor, I've been in politics a long time, as you mentioned. I've almost 20 years now, variously as a county commissioner, as a county councilman, ran for mayor, now I'm county auditor. I have, got a lot of good, decent relationships with a lot of elected officials and whatnot, and I was on very good terms with the sheriff of St. Joseph County. He, for a while, without much reflection, I think, was doing what ICE wanted them to do, which was to hold folks that were suspected to be undocumented aliens in the St. Joseph County Jail for 48 hours for these guys to come pick them up. And it caused a stir in the community. And he said that they're breaking the law, I've got to do this. And I said, no, you don't have to do this. You do not have to do this. And I go, moreover, you're taking a risk. You're putting the county at risk, buddy. I'm the guy that watches the numbers. I watch the books. And if they're in our facility, something happens, we're liable. You're causing a lot of consternation in the Latino community, a lot of fear, and this is wrong. And finally, he asked one of his attorneys to check it out, and they talked to the ICE attorneys, and they discovered we don't have to do this. So they stopped. And I felt very proud of that I played a role in convincing Sheriff Grisgork to cease and desist doing that. And when we had folks that weren't getting anywhere with him.
The American dream, what it means to work for yourself, to provide for your family.
I was the very first person in my family, extended family area, to go to college. So what was very much stressed growing up was education and trying to take advantage of the opportunities that my grandparents and my parents felt that they couldn't take advantage of because of various economic inhibitors, right? You had the Great Depression, World War II, and stuff like that. So I felt very blessed, and I felt very driven by that, the steps. I think back to that, like, what if my grandparents had never got on that boat? I'm standing on their shoulders, of my grandparents and my parents, to live this a wonderful life. It's been a beautiful life as a teacher and a public official, and I have 4 children, and 3 of whom went to Notre Dame. One went to University of Southern California. Not sure what happened to her, but they're all living wonderful lives. And it's because of that immigrant experience which said, you know, we're going to take these risks and we're doing these things not just for us, but we're thinking of the future generations.
My father always wanted to own his own business, but could never do it. So we did it for him. And I guess that's the dream.